Hello, this is session 7, Architectural Modeling Core Slab. We are going to be looking at the assembly method commonly used in architectural model making for producing um, towers for constructing the slabs and the core. I'm just going to show you some samples of what I'm talking about. As you can see, we're going to learn how to assemble and design a core structure that supports and equally spaces, or not necessarily equally, but it spaces the slabs exactly where you want them to be, which is a fairly efficient, fast method of production. Um, all right, let's get started. As usual, let's jump to Rhino. So basically, we're looking at a structure that has repeated elements. The space can vary. In this case, it's all equally spaced. It does have an interior core composed of multiple elements, um, but most importantly, it has this front and back elements that are designed to hold each slab um, by the use of these little slits, and the slab themselves are designed to go in. Um, and this whole core is made out of pieces that can be put together um, so that we can build this structure quite efficiently. I'm going to show you how to model these, how to lay out um, your cuts, how to structure your drawings, how to lay them out, and that's it. All right, so let's just get started. Let me start with a nice fresh area. This is a 24 by 18 um, 24 by 18 dimension boxed, 24 inches in height. This is just our laser cutter volume, obviously not in height, but just so that you don't make anything that's way too big or just too tall, that pieces are not, you're not gonna be able to laser cut individual pieces. um, so let's just use that as our base. Let's start by designing our um, slab. So let's just start with a regular rectangle. um, and let's make it 9 by 6, so that it's not uh, so squarish. Now we're gonna do our uh, core, and as usual, let's keep this nice and organized. So let's make a nice sub layer there that is called slab. Let's do another one that's called core, and for now I think that's all we need. um, so I'm just gonna make sure I got this on this slab. Let me make sure I change the color of that so that I can identify it. Okay, perfect. And let's do our slab in this nice magenta or purple. Okay, so now we're gonna create our core. We're gonna select our outline and type in offset. Now notice that there are many types of offset. What we want to use is just simply offset. This would offset only curves. Everything else is for different objects. So just offset will give us this, would allow us to transform this curve. And let's give this a, say that 2-inch. Yeah, 2-inch looks good. A 2-inch offset in. This looks proportional, I think. Um, one thing to keep in mind is, yes, I am working in inches, but also I have updated my have made my tolerance a little higher, just so that I'm able to model the tolerances that I want. So I'm working at 0.001 in inches, um, so you know, and I'll show you why in a minute. Now we're going to model. You notice how we have this little um, protruding elements, um, and let's model those real quick. How we're going to do this? We're going to, again, using our command, our rectangle command, working on slabs. We're going to do something that is about like that. Maybe this is 1/8 of an inch thick. Let's make it like that. Okay, but that's not where I want it. I want this to be, let's rotate this 90 degrees and let's move it from the middle, that to the middle. But I also want this to be a little wider, so about there looks good. All right, let's make a copy of this on the other side. And remember this purple, this outline is supposed to be our core. Let's make a copy of this. Let's select that and make a copy to our slab. We right click on slab and copy object to layer. Now there is a copy. I'm gonna turn off the core and I'm gonna select these and type in trim. I'm gonna trim that and trim that. Exit or escape, and notice that now we have a nice slab opening, and I'm gonna select that and join those lines. Okay, so that's, so far we're looking good with our slab. Now we're gonna add some thickness, add some surfaces to this. So if I select both of these, and since they are on the same plane, I can use the command planar surface, and this automatically creates a surface based on those two curves. Now next thing I want to do is add the material thickness. In this case, I recommend for a model at this scale, for slabs they could be about 1/16 thickness. I wouldn't go necessarily thinner just because they're going to be very flimsy. So 1/16 of like museum board or acrylic would work really fine, or chipboard. So we're gonna offset surface. So we are offsetting surface, and we just make sure we got our parameters right. We do want our corners sharp. We do want it solid. Tolerance is fine. And then do we want to delete the input? Yes. It's okay that it's going up. So yeah, let's just make sure we type in our thickness, 1/16, and there it is. We have our slab. All right, now let's work on the core. We have a core. So one thing to consider that I mentioned earlier is tolerance. When you are fabricating anything, you do need to keep in mind material thicknesses. Materials are not perfect. Sometimes they're thicker than what you think they are, or even laser cutters are not perfect. Sometimes they cut things thicker or thinner than what you planned think they are. So you always have to have some room for error. So we're gonna add some space in between our core and the slab and the slab. So from the top, we're gonna type in offset. Remember, it's just offset, and we're gonna add that little tolerance that I'm talking about. But it could be like a very minimum space. In this case, I would recommend either a 64th, 1/64th of an inch, or maybe even less than that. Let's go with 1/128, and you can see that creates our little air gap, which is gonna allow us to um, make up for any, like I said, any material differences, and the model should still be somewhat tight, but also not get stuck. Okay, so that's our core. And let's extrude. Let's make sure this is on the right layer. And let's extrude that curve up. If we go now back to our side view, let's do 23 inches. We're not gonna do it all the way to the top. And there it is. That's our core. Now we're gonna create our little indentation. So there's multiple ways we can do this. Um, let's go for the simplest one. Okay, so let me go for wire mode on our top view. We also have to create that little air gap for the slabs going into the material, right? So for that, a couple of ways we can do that. Let me just hide the core for a minute, and we're gonna create a new layer just for let's call it air gap. And let's make it a nice brown color. Okay, I'm gonna create an object that goes from there to there. So that's basically, and is as thick as my slab. That is basically the material that I want to take out, but I want to add that tolerance. So let's offset the surface by, well, as we had already done before, 1/28. Oh, that's not 1/28. 1/128. And there it is. That's what we're going to use to create our tolerance. Okay. So we have those elements ready. We're going to go ahead and array both the air gap that we're going to use and the slabs up. Array from the front. Now keep in mind that if you're working on the front view, has different coordinates. In the front view, X goes to the right, Y goes up. In the perspective view, Y, depending on where you're looking at, they're both planar. Y and X are on the same plane. But because you're looking at it from the front, in this case, Y is actually going up, kind of like Z is doing on perspective. So working on front, we're going to have direction of number of items in the X direction, just one. We don't want to go this way, so one is fine. We're going to have 24. Let's do 24 slabs in the Y direction, and none in the Z, or one in the Z. We're going to start from the bottom of the slab here and go all the way up. Notice that both the spacer and my slab are being copied. And I'm going to do this at 1-inch intervals. Perfect. So there they are. So I have I'm almost there. Okay, so let's hide our slabs for now. We have our core, and we actually also copied some of those lines, which we can get rid of if we select curve. It selects all our curves, and we can just delete those. We don't need them. Okay. So next thing we want to do is, before we boolean these two guys out, we're gonna add some thickness to our core. let's add some materiality to this. Let's get rid of the top and the bottom by pressing Control Shift and selecting those. Um, Next thing we want to do is we want to explode this. Now they're all different elements. And the next thing we want to do is add some thickness. Same way we did with the slabs. So in this case, yeah, we could use the same material, the 1/16. I do recommend to use maybe something a little thicker, like 1/8, so twice as thick. Um, Either cardboard, chipboard, whatever it is, just because this is kind of like what's holding everything together, and these are long pieces, and you don't want them to be like flopping around. Um, so let's do 1/8. We're gonna offset surfaces, and we just want to make sure we go in the right direction. We want to go in, so we're gonna flip, and we're gonna do 1/8, and there they are. Now I have added thickness to my core, but also notice that they are overlapping. So we do want to make sure we address that. We're gonna make the long side go all the way, and the short sides are gonna be intersecting or in. So we're gonna select both of these. We're gonna do a Boolean difference command using our outer or our longer sides. Press enter and notice how now they are fitting within. So we're very close there. Okay, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna use our air gap volumes to make those openings on both of our long sides of the core. Let's select both of those, and we can go to the top view. We're gonna Boolean difference using all of the air gap elements, as you can see. And there it is. We can go ahead and turn that off, and you have now created very nicely spaced openings for your slabs. Okay, let's bring our slabs back on, and this is how that's looking like. Now you can either create this last slab, or maybe we want to bring this up a little and add like a little cap, or maybe you can get rid of this top slab, depending on what you're trying to do. We also have a bunch of curves here. Let's select cell curves, and let's just delete those. We don't need them. Let's make this a nice flat top. So we can make a volume there. Let's bring it down a little. I'm gonna select all of these. Boolean difference. Now that cleans up that top surface, and you can either we can probably put like a little nice little cap, right? So like so, we can just make a box from there to there. That is the thickness of the material, 1/8. There it is. So you can see that as a little mechanical room at the top of our tower. And that's basically it. Now we're pretty much ready to roll. Let's make sure our bottom also, both our slab and our core are touching at the same level, because that's pretty important for stability. So, and it looks like so. It looks like they both share the same bottom. So we did that successfully. Okay, one more thing that you could add is so notice that the way we're going to assemble this is we're going to first use our two long sides to separate all of our slabs, then we're gonna um, put in the two sides to keep these two separate. Maybe we can add one more in the middle. That'll give you some more rigidity, or we can probably add a couple more uh, here in the long side to keep the two short ones from collapsing in. Um, I think that would be a good idea. Let's um, let's make those real quick. So how do we make those? We can go ahead and maybe we can take this. We can rotate that 90 degrees. Um, we can move this to the middle here or to the corner. Again, multiple ways of doing this. This is just one way of doing it. Um, if I Control Shift, select this face, and then move that corner to this corner or to this intersection, that creates that layer that I wanted. Now I can just mirror this. So the short sides are keeping the long sides separate, and these two interior ones are keeping the short ones from collapsing, right? And if you add glue, and maybe you can even fill this up with something in the meantime, or maybe just add some tape to the sides while it dries. That should be sufficient. Um, okay. The next thing is to create the cut files for this, which is quite easy. Let's make a new layer. Let's go laser cut with some sub layers, one for score, although I don't think we're scoring anything, and one that's called cut. Remember, we are for a score we're using the red color, and it has to be pure red. Cannot be some kind of reddish looking. It has to be red with these values in it in order for it to work. And then same thing, we're gonna use the blue. It has to be the blue with these exact values for it to work with the uh, laser cutter. Okay, so let's make this a white so that it doesn't identify as a cut line. Remember, we're gonna make the dimensions of our, while working on this, we're gonna make the dimensions of our print bed, which are 18 inches by 24. Let's just rotate this. You're probably gonna need more than one, but let's have that for now. All right, let's lay out our slabs first. Obviously, in this case, our slabs are repeating, so we can just lay one out and just copy it. If I Control Shift the and press on the top of this surface, I can select only the top and then use the duplicate border command. Do border, and now I have the lines out again, and there they are. And both of these are gonna get cut, so I'm just gonna put this as under my cut line, and let's put him here. And how do we bring him down? We can go to the side view and remember that align command, which is super useful, and we're gonna align it to the bottom. I'm just gonna bring it there. Okay, perfect. Now you can just simply multiply, and you can say, okay, how many can I fit in this area? Okay, maybe one way to be super efficient, if you know you're working with a repeated slab, is to not really cut them individually, but to actually just draw the grid in the dimensions of your slab and just cut long lines in both directions, and then just cut out these. So it depends on what you're working on, but you get the idea as to how to lay this out um, on your bed. So that's one way. And now, how do we get our slab ready for cut? Let's make a copy here. Um, let's see. We have one, two, we have four parts plus the two interior. We have six parts. Um, so three unique parts that repeat. So we're gonna select the front there. We're gonna select the side, and we're gonna select one of the interiors. And while pressing Alt key, I'm gonna make a copy of those and just bring them over here. So notice I only have the surfaces now. And again, multiple ways of doing this. You can try to rotate this into position, or we can also just simply use the unroll command, unroll surface. Enter, and notice how it just brought my surface here, and it's nice and flat, and it's actually at 0 already. So let's do the same thing for this guy and for this guy, and now we don't need this. Fantastic. So we have those. We're gonna rotate them 90 degrees and align them vertically to the middle, so they're nice and center. And let's do that. Let's do that. So remember, how do we get the lines out of these? Very simply by duplicating border. So do border, it duplicated 25 of the borders. We're gonna assign that to the cut layer, and we can go ahead and get rid of the surfaces that we do not longer need. And there they are. And we can simply cut this pattern twice, and that will be our core assembly. Okay, so I think this is pretty much everything you need to know on making a core assembly tower tower structure. All right, I hope you find this useful, and I'll make a copy to a couple of video tutorials I found on twisting and using the Loft command with the record history button to create some interesting shapes for towers. So use this along with those other two tutorials from um, different gentlemen that I think you'll be able to make some interesting models. All right, thank you.